Is there anything worth talking about with Deadpool?
I did like it. I'm not sure how much I'd like it if I saw it again.
So I watched it a second time.
Okay, so you got the perspective here.
And
I also saw it only once and enjoyed it as like
Well, I
one-off.
love Ryan Reynolds. I like seeing him be Ryan Reynolds, and this was a movie where Ryan Reynolds could be Ryan Reynolds.
And not be like a cute love interest.
No, yeah.
Smiley guy.
So it's fair to say, I mean, it was a great movie in a lot of ways. I mean, but the thing that didn't really stand up for me was anytime he was outside of the costume. I think that he's at the height of his powers when he's in that costume.
Yes.
Which I think says a lot for Ryan Reynolds and his voice acting and his acting and his body movement.
And also the way they decided to make to give the costume eyes some expression and
it has,
and also give it not a lot of expression. There's something really comical about watching somebody in a leather superhero costume get to completely mutilated.
It's kind of a monotone type thing. It's the comedy of being monotone as a physical being.
Yeah. And I love how like dirty and like sweaty like his crotch got and stuff like that. Like, and they really play that up. It's a gimmick movie almost. And
it was directed by a guy who this was his first feature.
That's
and
amazing.
He's 50 some. And he up to this point he had only ever directed video games and like trailers for video games.
So that gives you hope. You can be a late bloomer like this guy.
Yeah, it was apparently his last chance at really getting a giant project, and because he'd been working in the industry for years. Yeah. And this was like he just was so on board with this project and had a vision for it.
And Ryan Reynolds, kind of like you, rode that pony until somebody.
That's right. Ride that pony.
Ride that pony until it works out for you.
I mean, I'm sure it was ultimately to the benefit of the film that they botched it so badly in X-Men Origins Wolverine when they tried to do Deadpool then. Because Fox really had to kind of, eat crow over it. And
let them go off and do it in a smaller way. They weren't going to try like a big reboot of it.
And like a lot of old video games that had technical limitations, this had budgetary limitations. I think
60 mil.
Which is nothing for a feature. I think that was to the benefit of this movie, and it will get a sequel. It's the highest I
think it made them much more creative with it.
Highest grossing R-rated film of all time.
And another not giant stakes thing. It's him and his girlfriend on like a container ship, and it's not.
Well, at the end of the day, it's a movie about a guy trying to get the girl. Yeah. And that's all it really is. And to incorporate also lesser X-Men characters
that was brilliant.
Or to not those are my all
and
my
to rag
parts.
on it and to be like it's obvious what's happening here.
Yeah.
But we need it for the story and let's have a little fun with it.
You can only get 2 X-Men in
You two are the only ones home every time I show up. It's a big house.
With those fourth wall breaks, you could have $5 as the budget, and you can make it work because you just acknowledge your shortcomings and move on.
Oh yeah.
And so I guess the real test is going to be how do they handle the sequel, because if they kind of make it into this giant franchise that they're really trying to merchandise off of, it could lose a lot of
the charm,
a lot of the edge that makes it so appealing.
Well, the one thing that's interesting is I don't feel like. Do you think there's going to be a huge backlash almost? Like, do you think a lot of studios are going to greenlight a lot of R-rated superhero movies?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what tends to happen. I mean, people have been talking about how maybe they shouldn't do that a lot. But yeah, I mean, historically, Hostel does well, right? Yeah. And so then in the next fiscal year, you're going to see 10 movies just like Hostel. Yeah. Because it was a surprise hit. So anything that's a surprise hit gets emulated. Yeah. But I hear that Old Man Logan, which is going to be the final Hugh Jackman Wolverine movie, that's set to be R-rated.
Well, that makes sense in the X-Men canon. I don't feel like it will have that much of an impact. Like, even with Suicide Squad, there was this vague theory that they would R-rate it up based on the success of Deadpool, but I don't feel like that really happened.
I mean, there is something a little bit sad to the notion that children aren't welcome anymore.
Except that they're welcome to everything. I feel like they're so much more welcome than they are misplaced, because they want people to come and see, well, everyone can come see Despicable Me. So what we'll do is we'll take the movies that are so obviously for kids and throw in the stuff for adults and try to make them 4-quadrant films.
But Deadpool wasn't good because it was R-rated. Deadpool was good because it had a vision. And part of that vision was an R-rated comedy. Yeah. It's sort of in that same way that South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. It just had a vision. Yeah. It was like, it's going to be this, and that's why we still watch that movie.
It's refreshing. It's refreshing to have that R-rated vision, even though I feel like then you'll have the counter thing where people are like, we need an R-rated movie, and that's not the way to
studios won't understand why it was successful. Same way that Guardians of the Galaxy was good because it had a vision. You know, it's like, it's not like, oh, people like team movies. Make another team movie. It's like, no, it's just a really good one.
I don't even know what R-rated means anymore, though. I'm kind of shocked that to even hear now, and even though I know it, that Suicide Squad wasn't R-rated. You have a guy whose main thing is he's great at killing people, and he shoots everyone, and he's perfect at it.
All the time.
You have someone who, arguably, even though they cut a lot of it out, is in an abusive relationship. A guy who killed his children and his wife, who lit things on fire.
He's the most sympathetic character.
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of in that same way that like Breaking Bad on AMC can't say fuck.
Yeah. Which is
But
ridiculous.
it can do everything else
It
in the
can
world.
liquefy a guy.
Yeah.
But you can't say fuck.
But it's interesting that Fox, with all of its failures and all of its kind of touch and go, had such a massive hit. I mean, like, you know, I with them treating that material as well as they did, you know, it kind of slows those comments down a little bit about trying to get these properties over to Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't think, you know,
I don't think it's good that they're all at Marvel. Like, I actually like that there is, because as soon as you bring mutants into the world of Marvel, like the Marvel movies,
it really devalues the whole point, which is like, well, what is the difference between Thor and a mutant?
yeah.
What's the difference between one of those space mutants that's in like the Dark Phoenix saga and Thor?
Yeah.
Or, you know, what's the difference between Thanos and...
Then, like, it really throws out Black Widow and Hawkeye, who were pretty much out the door anyway.
Yeah.
To be like, don't even bother training up to be a great agent because they're just mutants who are going to blow you away.
Even Tony Stark takes a backseat at that point. But like, I don't love Batman when he's interacting with the Justice League.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I think that he kind of, like, they always do figure out some narrative way to bring him forward by being, like, they're all fighting and then he's like, aha, and he uses his human brain or something and he goes and flies like at one of his ships. But I think that like standalone Batman, like you're never gonna make a better Batman movie than The Dark Knight.
There's like a reality to it. It's like Daredevil, the Netflix series Daredevil. The street level crime is very compelling and there's stakes.
And they're
I think
smart.
that's the thing.
They're smart enough not to make that world interact with their movie universe, even though it does exist in the same plane.
Yes.
So that's one way you could do it. If the X-Men did, you know, fall over to Marvel, they could sort of keep them separate while acknowledging each other's existences.
But I do kind of like the not artificial, but the real life licenses are in different
But they could really use Magneto. I mean, in terms of villains.
That's true. Because
They don't really have any villains, so they could Magneto's.
Because Loki doesn't do it for me personally.
Yeah, I don't really get.
A lot of people like him.
Hiddle
but-
Swift.
Yeah, I don't like the Hiddle Swifts and the Cumberbatches and the.
I'm kind of with you. And we haven't seen Doctor Strange yet. That's coming out in a few months. And but I'm not like super excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, it'll probably surprise me, and I'll be like, oh, I didn't even.
Yeah, but
know
the trailers didn't grab you the way Guardians trailers grabbed you.
That's true.
Yeah.